Okay, I've made a lot of political videos. I'm pretty well versed in delusional statements put out by the Trump administration and his handlers, but this one was shocking even for me.
The president posted another ad this week for his Trump meme coin. The group that's running that coin is encouraging people to buy in order to win a dinner this month with the president. Why is the president planning to attend a dinner for the top investors in his coin?
Look, the president is abiding by all conflict of interest laws. The president has been incredibly transparent with his own personal financial obligations throughout the years. The president is a successful businessman, and I think, frankly, it's one of the many reasons that people reelected him back to this office.
There are at least some people who are buying this coin who seem to view it as an opportunity to influence the president's views. There was a logistics company this week that said they would buy $20 million in the coin in order to advocate for free trade between the U.S. and Mexico. If buyers are buying for that reason, are they wasting their money?
Look, I can assure you the president acts with only the interests of the American public in mind, putting our country first and doing what's best for our country, full stop. That's his intention, and that's what he's focused on. And let me just get to the premise of your question that both of you have raised. I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He left a life of luxury and a life of running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once, but twice. And again, the American public reelected him back to this White House because they trust he acts in the best interest of our country and putting the American public first. This is a president who has actually lost money for being president of the United States. I don't remember these same type of questions being asked of my predecessor about a career politician who was clearly profiting off of this office. That is not what President Trump does, and this White House holds ourselves to the highest of ethical standards.
That was Caroline Leavitt, Trump's press secretary, responding to a question about Trump laundering money to himself via his crypto coins. And this isn't just spin, this is gaslighting on an industrial scale. First, let's start off with the most obvious. Trump never divested from any of his businesses when he became president. Unlike virtually every president before him, he maintained ownership of his company while he was in office, creating unprecedented conflicts of interest. According to a report by Crew, Trump made more than 3,400 visits to his own properties as president, essentially forcing taxpayers to foot the bill for government officials to stay at Trump-branded properties. The Washington Post found that Trump's company charged the Secret Service, for example, as much as $1,185 per night for rooms at his properties. That's not losing money, that is a direct pipeline from the US Treasury to Donald Trump's bank account. And while we're on the subject of Trump's properties, foreign officials and lobbyists suddenly developed a remarkable affinity for Trump's hotels once he became president. Remember when the Saudi government booked 500 rooms at Trump's hotel in Washington, D.C.? Or when T-Mobile executives seeking merger approval spent $195,000 at Trump's D.C. hotel? That's not a coincidence, it is influence peddling, period. But Leavitt then claims that Donald Trump left a life of luxury for public service, mere public service. Let me remind you that Donald Trump spent nearly a third of his presidency at his own properties, primarily at Mar-a-Lago and his golf clubs. Some sacrifice. And he wasn't exactly roughing it in the White House either. He was actively promoting and profiting from his businesses while he was in office. And when he is at the White House, well, take a look at this and tell me that he's sprinting away from his life of luxury.
The mantle, and you have the cherubs from, right. Is that from Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, that's actually, they're gold, all gold, look. And you know, it's angels. They say angels bring good luck. And we need a lot of luck in this country with what they've done over the last 4 years. So take a look. Do you know that little secret? I don't know if you're going to waste your time putting this on, but throughout the years, people have tried to come up with a gold paint that would look like gold, and they've never been able to do it.
Can't do it.
You've never been able, look at that look. You've never been able to match gold with gold paint. That's why it's gold.
Yeah, real man of the people there. Who among us hasn't racked our brain over finding the perfect shade of gold paint to adorn our homes and offices? Then there's the 2017 tax cut that he signed when he was president in his first term, Trump's signature legislative achievement. You know, the one that was supposed to be very, very bad for the rich. The Tax Policy Center found that the top 1% received an average tax cut of over $50,000 in the first year alone, while the bottom 60% of Americans got less than $1,000. But the real kicker? Trump's own businesses directly benefited from specific provisions in the bill. For example, the tax law included a 20% deduction for pass-through businesses. That is exactly the type of business structure that the Trump Organization uses. According to an analysis by the Center for American Progress, this provision alone could have saved Donald Trump and his family between $20 million and $40 million annually. What a coincidence that the tax bill Donald Trump pushed for just so happened to include massive benefits for his own company. And how about the estate tax changes? The 2017 tax law doubled the estate tax exemption from $5.5 million to $11 million per individual. For a family with Donald Trump's claimed wealth, this change represents a potential savings of hundreds of millions of dollars for his heirs. Tell me, how many people watching this video right now have $11 million nest eggs to leave to their children? Probably not too many. The tax bill also eliminated the alternative minimum tax, the AMT, for corporations and substantially weakened it for individuals. So why does that matter? Because according to the partial tax returns that were leaked from 2005, the AMT forced Donald Trump to pay $31 million in additional taxes that year. But without the AMT, his tax bill would have been just $5.3 million. So Trump pushed through a tax bill that eliminated the very provision that had forced him personally to pay more taxes. Another coincidence, I'm sure. But then there's the presidency itself as a shield against prosecution. Let's remember, for example, that Donald Trump was indicted on 91 felony counts across 4 separate cases after leaving office. These included charges related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election, his mishandling of classified documents, and the hush money payout to Stormy Daniels. But by winning the presidency again, Trump has effectively put most of these cases on ice, thanks of course to the very presidency that Karoline Leavitt is claiming Donald Trump derives no benefit from. And speaking of using the presidency as a shield, Trump has already appointed his own lawyers and loyalists to key positions in the DOJ. So this isn't just about avoiding prosecution, it is about weaponizing the government against his enemies while protecting himself and his allies. Remember too, Trump is the first president in modern American history to refuse to release his tax returns, breaking a precedent that stretched back for decades. When journalists and congressional committees tried to obtain those tax returns, Trump fought them at every turn. Why the secrecy if he has nothing to hide? Why fight so hard if his business dealings are all above board? When the New York Times finally did obtain portions of his tax returns, they revealed that he paid just $750 in federal income taxes in both 2016 and 2017, and 0 federal income taxes at all in 10 of the 15 previous years. But I'm sure that has nothing to do with why he wanted to keep them secret. And I'm sure it's just another coincidence that the IRS suddenly stopped its mandatory audit of presidential tax returns during the Trump presidency. And that final line, that Trump has actually lost money being president, is perhaps the most laughable of all. According to Forbes, Trump was ranked 122nd on their list of wealthiest Americans when he took office in 2016 with a net worth of $4.5 billion. But by 2022, Forbes reported that his net worth had actually increased to $6.5 billion. Now, I'm certainly not a math guy, but if you can explain to me how someone increasing their wealth by over $2 billion during one term in office somehow doesn't mean that you've profited from your time in office, I'm all ears. So let's be crystal clear here. Donald Trump didn't run for president out of some selfless desire for public service. This is a man who has spent his entire life pursuing wealth, fame, and power. The presidency wasn't a sacrifice for Trump, it was the ultimate brand extension. It was a way to enrich himself, protect himself from legal jeopardy, and feed his insatiable ego all at once. So when Karoline Leavitt stands at the podium and tells us with a straight face that it's ridiculous to suggest that Donald Trump would do anything for his own personal benefit, she's not just spinning, she is lying. And she knows she's lying. She's counting on the American people being too stupid or too exhausted to see what's really happening. So the next time you hear Leavitt or any other Trump surrogate try to paint him as some selfless public servant who sacrificed his fortune for the good of the country, remember, they are not just bending the truth, they are breaking it. And they're counting on you not noticing or not caring. But the facts are the facts, and no amount of gaslighting from the White House podium is going to change that. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.